I'm teaching you something that's working for somebody who was seeing 100 a week and barely making it, now making $1 million a year at 150 a week with new systems and new ways of charging people or new verticals we've brought in. I'm going to show you what's working for at that level. So at 100 a week, 150 a week, here's the data. I was watching one of the actual Marvel, I believe it's Marvel. I'm no expert, but Thor is talking to Hulk, but Hulk is where he's just a person. And Thor said, fly the plane. And he says, well, I don't know how to fly. And he just told him he had all these PhDs. And Thor tells him, well, use one of your PhDs. So I'm going to help you use one of my degrees. I do have 4 degrees, 2 in business. And there's a couple of things that have worried me more and more over the years, particularly as I've been doing my dissertation, getting my doctorate in business, where I see for chiropractors, and really this would apply to small business owners, probably doctors of any kind, where since you don't have the business background or experience or maybe the financial training, you make these decisions just based on common sense or because we think we're pretty smart. We're doctors, we've run a clinic, so we know what we're doing. And it gets pretty dangerous, especially now in the age where we're getting a lot of our information from Facebook, social media, or media in general that has a agenda. So they're trying to sell you something, or they want you to lean in a particular direction, usually for their benefit, for their biased benefit. And it can hurt you if you're not informed. So I want to help you borrow some of my degrees, borrow from some of my experience to understand how to assess, what are the needs I have for finances. If I'm getting into real estate, how would I truly assess that? And certainly for my clinic, something we're coming off of our Christ-centered chiropractic event that we did called United. We did it in partnership with Evoke, with 3 leaders that I highly respect. And one of the things that I shared as we were bringing up our different speakers for the event was that the most successful doctors in chiropractic are not the ones that are Facebook famous. Not to say there aren't a couple of people that are Facebook famous that aren't successful, but the most successful doctors are definitely not Facebook famous. They're too busy making money, saving lives, and raising a great family. In fact, it's a contradiction that they'd be doing all of that and be Facebook famous. You can't do both of those things. Their focus is on their practice, their finances, their family, their own personal health and well-being. So they can't be constantly online posting things and mastering the art of online marketing to raise their likes and raise their shares and spending ads so you can watch them speak more often and there's more views. So the people you're seeing a lot of that might have 3 million views or 3,000 views or 10,000 likes or 20,000 followers, these are not the most successful chiropractors, if we're talking specifically about your chiropractic practice. And when I say success, and I further define this when we bring up any speaker at our events, I'm looking at a lot of things. So as I'm choosing those speakers, I'm looking at their family. So no one's got a perfect family, unless, of course, you're looking at Facebook, then it seems like everybody's got a perfect family. All of us have to deal with stuff. If you got 3 kids, a mom and a dad, you've got 5 individual problems also. Everybody's got issues, but these are people that are certainly working on it. They're working on their marriages. They're working on developing healthy, successful children, and they're investing in themselves and their relationship with God so that they're all doing their best, and it's generally going pretty well. So that's first and foremost what I'm looking to bring onto any stage of mine if I'm putting on a seminar. Then, of course, there's the practice itself. Is the practice doing well above and beyond the other practices in our profession? So I've gotten a chance to coach nearly 6,000 different doctors. I've worked with another 10,000 students. We've done millions at our seminar. And so obviously there's not millions of chiropractors, but millions of people who've thousands have come many times. And so I've gotten a chance to interact with a lot of people in chiropractic, and I speak to about 100 chiropractors a week on the phone. So I know who the top is. Like, here are the people truly seeing a lot of people, making a lot of money. And again, it's running well. When I first was asked to speak at my very first seminar, somebody invited me on the stage because of my volume. But I remember the first speaker, they said, this guy may not have the biggest volume, but has the best business in chiropractic. And I thought, well, can I switch places with him? He could be the keynote speaker showing off about his volume. I was pretty young at the time, maybe 26. Let him be the guy talking about his volume. I want to know the business. I would love to understand what they mean by business, how he's profitable, how things are stable, sane. The staff loves being there. I want to learn about that. Unfortunately, it took me a lot of years to learn it. I kept focused on the volume for probably too long. But again, I'm looking for people that have all of that together, the business, the volumes where it's not just a lot of people, but it's quality of care, it's profitable and sustainable. I'm looking at all of these things. So we're going to bring up good people onto the stage. They're taking care of themselves, so I know their health and well-being, mentally, physically, spiritually, that's in good shape. So these are the people that are truly succeeding in chiropractic. And something that I saw this online recently, to keep talking about the whole idea of being Facebook famous. And somebody was talking about the fact that there are clinics that are making millions and millions of dollars a year. And somebody, actually was an old client of mine from many years ago, said, well, if they're doing that, then obviously something's wrong. They must not be seeing families, doing it properly. Somehow they're ripping off insurance companies, because you can't make $100, $200 a visit and millions a year unless you're seeing thousands of people. And that's completely not true. Back to the seminar this weekend, we had many, many people getting up to speak, doing between $90,000 and $150,000 a month. So again, well over a million, pushing to 2 million a year at 150, 200, 250 a week. So the reality is, if you do this thing well at high quality, you can make $1 million or millions a year without doing something wrong. In fact, these people are doing things incredibly right. And they are seeing families, they are seeing babies and children. So they do have the whole package, which again is why I've got them on the stage. So back to borrowing one of my PhDs to learn how to fly the plane, like in that Marvel movie. Somebody have to send me a note and tell me which movie that was, or how big a mistake I'm making, because I'm mixing up Marvel with something else. So first of all, let's talk about houses. Let's talk about real estate. So I'm constantly doing real estate. It's a major part of my career. I'm a real estate company. So in terms of when the government's assessing me for taxes, we have a company that's a real estate company, which means we spend relatively close to 1,000 hours a year in this company that does mortgages, multifamily, single family, Airbnb. We've got a lot of different things that we do in our real estate company. So when I'm talking to chiropractors as to how they're assessing whether or not they're going to buy a building for their practice, or buy their family home, or buy a home they're investing in, or flip houses, or get into multifamily, maybe syndication, all the different things you can do with real estate, I listen to how they're determining whether or not it's a good idea, and they don't understand the principles of underwriting. And so this is really, again, just to help you make better decisions. That's what this is all about. So with underwriting, just to give you an example, you're looking for things like the NOI, which is the net operating income, and then you're going to divide that by the actual cost of the property and get a cap rate. And all of that's really important in assessing whether or not you're going to make that investment, or whether your current investment is thriving. And then you're really looking at things like, are there value add opportunities? Are there things I can do with the property that will allow it to grow in value, so that we're appreciating in the value of my overall worth of the property, but also able to increase my NOI as compared to what I invested. So my percent return is getting better and better and better. These are all things that come out in what we call underwriting, which is when you're determining whether or not this is a good home to invest in. You're also looking at other things that can be pitfalls and costs that really rob you of the returns on this investment. Things like, I'm not going to invest in that home when I know that roof needs to be replaced. Or if I do, we're going to take the cost of a new roof off the price of the property. Because anything that I have to invest in, like a roof or any other electricals, HVAC, water heater, whatever I have to invest in, these really are things that cost you on top of the cost of the house. So as you do your cap rates, they're getting lower and lower and lower if you haven't taken those things into consideration. And so there's a lot of things you're looking into. So it's interesting as people say to me, hey, do you like this investment? And like, well, like has nothing to do with it. I'm looking to actually bring in some doctors with me with some of the investing I'm doing. So a doctor was showing me a house the other day and said, he goes, you're putting in most of the money, so it's your call. Like, well, it's not really my call. They're simply underwriting and whether or not the numbers work and coming up with a number that does and presenting that number to the seller. I don't care what the house is listed for. I don't care who the seller is and what they want. I don't care what my realtor says. That's for sure. I definitely don't care what the realtor says. They just want to sell the property and make their commission. All I care about is my number. So when I do the underwriting, I get a number and I will not pay more than that number. Sure, I'd love to pay a lot less than it and lowball them and get a great deal, but I'm not necessarily needing to hurt somebody. I just know this is the number. So I'm constantly in conversations with realtors and sellers and just like, listen, this is just the number. It's not an opinion. It's not whether or not I prefer that because I'm trying to get one over on you and get a great deal. It's just the number. So I don't fall in love with the deal. I fall in love with a number. Same thing with doctors. When we were in the hospital, I wrote a book that's got relatively famous at one point called The Cancer Killers. And the book was a story about a friend of ours who got cancer, and we went through this journey with him in the hospital. And we were at Northwestern Hospital, one of the top hospitals in America. We are there with the top, what they were telling us is the top hemoncologist, which is a cancer doctor, top hemoncologist in the world. This guy's apparently famous. But despite all that, what's really their results? And if you've ever read Love, Medicine, and Miracles or anything by Bernie Siegel, he'll tell you that the thing about top oncologists is 10 years later, all their patients are dead. So this, again, in terms of borrowing degrees, it's who are we learning from? Are we learning from people who really know what they're doing? So this is a guy that really knows what he's doing as a hemoncologist, but does not really know what he's doing when it comes to you staying alive. And in fact, they told us in the hospital that our friend had no chance. We were there surrounded by doctors. He has no chance. Despite that fact, we're going to put him through our care in this special area where he's going to have a flat screen TV and nice music and better food while they do chemo and radiation, and he dies. And this is coming from the top. This is the best guy. And when you question it, it was like, how dare you question this guy who might as well, for all intents and purposes, been Facebook famous. Just because you're well known doesn't mean you're getting results. And so we rolled the patient out of there, much of their dismay. And when we said we're going to look for alternatives, they laughed at us and thought it was ridiculous. And then he went on to survive, got over that cancer, and went on to live many, many more years, most of them very high quality. Another example was a pastor who went to Fred Hutchinson's hospital in Seattle. That's where the pastor was from, famous pastor. His son's now even more famous than he was. And he discovered through a life insurance blood test that he had cancer. And when he went there, they gave him no chance. Again, best hospital in the world, no chance, but you'll do our procedure to get the no chance. So his wife, before reaching out to me, and we work with him, and again, got many, many more good years out of his life than he would have otherwise. She went to these doctors, just as this very courageous wife of this pastor, and said, well, why would we listen to you then? Like, you don't have an alternative that would keep him alive. Why would we follow your way? And they're like, because every other way is ridiculous. And she said, well, we're going to try these alternatives. And once again, they laughed at her, told her she was being ridiculous. But meanwhile, she went down that road. I had a chance to help them a little bit. And he lived many, many good quality years where they said he would have died. So now getting into your practice, it's really the same thing. So there's all kinds of Facebook famous people. There's all kinds of really well-known coaches. And it's not to say that some of them couldn't add value. Some of them are these financial coaches. I've had an opportunity because of the fact that we've developed some pretty nice net worth. We work with a high net worth family office who manages our finances. And they're part of a larger, major global conglomerate that's involved in the financial world. And they asked me recently about a certain investment with life insurance to find out why is it that chiropractors, it's become known to us that chiropractors, nobody else, no other professionals, no other billionaires, millionaires, nobody else does this type of investing, just chiropractors. It's something chiropractors do. And they want to know why that was. And I had to explain to them that's because chiropractors get sucked into these interprofessional things with people just absolutely seizing on our ignorance, taking advantage of us. And so thousands of chiropractors will suddenly invest in something that isn't the proper investment, isn't a wise investment, isn't the best thing for their future, all because it's Facebook famous. It's just what chiropractors do. So that's one example. And again, a lot of other financial coaches, chiropractic coaches, new patient coaches, whatever types of coaches there are, sure, some of them are great. There's it's not like everybody's awful out there, but are these the right people to be getting your information from? So in getting this PhD in business, one of the things that I learned very quickly that sort of flies in the face a little bit with, say, chiropractic philosophy is that you're never supposed to make decisions innately. You're supposed to make them off of data when it comes to business-based decisions. So if I'm making a new patient decision, like here's what I want to invest in, I'm supposed to be looking at data that this type of process with this amount of money produced this much new patients and this much ROI. Like that's how I'm supposed to be doing it. What's the data on that? And if I'm going to choose you as a person to invest in as a coach or consultant, then I'm going to analyze the data using the same process in the same situation of many, many other people. As an example, there's a lot of these Facebook marketing vendors that are popular in chiropractic. Again, not very popular elsewhere, just very popular in chiropractic that are really taking advantage of chiropractors. And if you look at the data, again, I'm speaking to 100 doctors a week. I'm not aware of more than one or two that are doing well with this. So 98 out of 100 are failing using these vendors and losing thousands of dollars. Even the ones that are working many, many months of the year, the ROI just isn't there, yet it's what we tend to do, even though the data doesn't support it. When I look at, because a lot of the coaches were my clients and have done pretty well, but as we look to them as now coaches, what's the data on their success with other clients? So anything that I'm going to teach is never coming from my innate. It's not something that I think is a good idea. It's something I'm watching work, not for me, because I'm one of these freaks. I was seeing 2,000 a week, opened up over 170 clinics. I can't teach you some that work for me. I'm teaching you some that's working for somebody who was seeing 100 a week and barely making it, now making $1 million a year at 150 a week with new systems and new ways of charging people or new verticals we've brought in. I'm going to show you what's working for at that level. So at 100 a week, 150 a week, here's the data. My clients will often tell me that you bring up a lot of other people when you're coaching me. That's because, I don't want to bring up me or some of these other freaks I've coached that went to 2,000 a week, or talking about Dr. Rob Schiffman, my partner, at 3,000 a week. That's freak stuff. That's Tom Brady stuff. That's Michael Jordan stuff. My son's a basketball player. We don't watch Michael Jordan videos or LeBron James videos. We watch videos of other, moderately sized people like us who aren't freaks. We're like, hey, that looks like you could do what that guy does. In fact, my son's private coaches say, here's somebody to emulate yourself after. This person is more your size, your skill level, your physical abilities. And he's been successful in college or the NBA. You should really look and see what he's doing, because you could reproduce that. LeBron, no, you'll never reproduce that. This guy, yes, you could probably do what he's doing. So same thing in chiropractic. When I talk about people doing 110,000, 130,000, 150,000 a month, these are people that they have very happy families at home. They're healthy people. They want balance in their life. They don't want to be screening at Walmart on the weekends. They don't want to be there till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So we're using data based on what's working in their offices to bring to you so that you can be successful as well, regardless of what level you're at. We can find a place to make you have the practice in the life of your dreams. So this is just, again, just making sure using my PhDs that you become a data-driven person, not somebody who has been, sucked into somebody's dog and pony show online because the videos look great. What they say seems amazing. Hey, they've got 300,000 views. There must be something to it. Not necessarily. Final thing I'll say, when we look at this idea of balance, because that's anybody who's teaching you to be successful and isn't really addressing all areas of life, could be sending you off in the wrong direction. You're following them because whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, they seem to have it all. I know a lot of them. I know a lot of people behind the scenes. I get a lot of calls from supposedly successful, famous chiropractors as an example, and you find out that life isn't so great. There's been a lot of these top guys fall in recent years because what was happening behind the scenes wasn't as nice as their highlight reel, as Pastor Furtick would say, on social media. And so what does balance really mean? So balance isn't that it's just family, because then it's out of balance. Certainly not just a practice, because then the family's out of balance. I also work with a lot of pastors. I was at a pastor's board with hundreds of pastors from around the world for 20 years. And so a lot of them, you would think, well, they're putting all their time in with God. That's going to create balance, but their families crash, and then that's a disaster, or their health crashes, and that ruins everything. Ministry, family, all of it goes away. So what do we mean by balance? And there's a fourth element of balance I'm going to bring to you to finish up here today. And again, I've got the data on it. And so we have family that we've got to make sure we're investing in. And as we look at, if you have 3 kids and a wife, it starts with, or 3 kids and a husband, it starts with marriage, because everything revolves around the marriage. If that isn't healthy, then certainly home life, parenting isn't going to work well. So we're heavily investing in our marriage, and then heavily investing in each individual child. And if you're doing that, you're doing the best you can. Obviously, there's better ways to do all of that, but at least you're investing in it. It's important to you. It's a priority. That's important. Secondly, of course, there's your ministry. If you're a chiropractor, it's your practice. And there's this idea that if I could help with my hours with the practice, and if I can help with my hours at home, then I've got balance. But there's a couple other elements that will still fall apart and throw this out of balance. One is there an investment, of course, into your health? I've seen too many doctors get unhealthy in recent years, and again, everything falls apart. But as I mentioned, there's a fourth thing that's not physical health or even just mental health and preparation, but are you also just dealing with elements of your personality? This comes more from another degree, which is my master's in psychology. What does your personality need? I've run into a lot recently where the doctor, they're working out, we've built better hours for the practice to give the necessary time at home, but workout, home investment, practice investment, it's still burning you out. You're still falling apart because that's a lot to manage. All 3 of those things require an intensive amount of energy. So where's the part where you actually heal? Where's the fourth part where you're actually reinvesting in yourself, especially like, for example, us introverts. So I'm introverted. A lot of my clients that I've worked with have been introverted. And so we know that we got to get away. Like we got to go do the thing that helps us to heal and recover, or we're falling apart, even though we've got what people would call balance. I work out, I eat well, I have a healthy practice where we've got the hours right, we're making money, I'm being a great dad, mom, husband, or wife. I'm still falling apart because I'm not doing what's required for me to heal and recover. So like an introverted, for example, has to get away. An extrovert might have to go party, like whatever it looks like. So consider all 4 elements when it comes to balance in order to really have the kind of life we're talking about. So hopefully this was valuable for you. This could have been a whole seminar. We got it done in 29 minutes. Bless you all, and remember who you are.